You're listening to episode 8 of the Afros and Pixie Dust podcast, The Veteran Vlogger with Audrey. Hey Diz friends, welcome to episode 8 of the Afros and Pixie Dust podcast. I am your host, June. So, Sleeping Beauty's castle got a Jenny Jones makeover. The walls are slowly coming down for her full reveal later this week, and she is looking amazing so far. Just when I thought I couldn't be any more excited to finally visit Disneyland this summer, now they refurbished the castle, and August can't come soon enough. Speaking of summer Disney plans, how many of you Dizblurds out there are planning to go to D23 this year? I'm currently working on organizing a meetup, and I hope to see you all there. So stay tuned to future episodes for more info on that. This week's guest is Audrey. She resides in Southern California. She is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and when she's not working as a theme park performer or giving voice lessons, you can find her in Disneyland meeting characters and recording videos for her vlog. I connected with Audrey online through Facebook and Instagram via our mutual love of Disneybounding. And she is such a sweet soul with an even sweeter voice. And she is also living proof that black don't crack. And without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Audrey. Hi, Audrey. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So am I. I love everything you do on Instagram, and I love your blog. So I'm really happy that I can get you on here and we could talk about you.
It's exciting for me. I've been on anyone's podcast and I don't really listen to them, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to start because they're getting so popular, and yours especially sounds so intriguing.
So I started listening to podcasts maybe like 2 years ago, and I love them. Like they're great, like for commuting, and kind of like when you're in the shower.
Okay.
So they're definitely something to get into. They're pretty fun. So let's talk about you.
Okay.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
No, not at all. So my name's Audrey Lee Young. And I'm married. I have 2 teenagers, and I live in Southern California. I've lived here since 2002, so it's been quite a long time. I lived here longer than anywhere else in my life. So even though I've lived a few places, I consider myself a Californian because we've been here for so long. We actually came out because my husband at the time was in the Air Force, and this is just where we were, sent to next. So we were both in the Air Force. We met in the Air Force actually, but at that time I had been out for a little bit. So that brought us to Southern California, and then we just ended up staying here. So that's how I ended up in California. I started my Disney obsession, I would say, when I got my annual pass. So that was 2015. And of course I loved Disney before that, but I don't think the obsession really started until right around that time. So I live about an hour south of Disneyland. So I try to get up there at least twice a month. And I love it. I love Disneybounding. That kind of helped the obsession a little bit. And now I started a YouTube channel. So it's all just like all I think about all the time.
I mean, why not? Such a great outlet.
It is a great outlet. And I've made a lot of friends through the community. I can't really remember the first time I found Disneybounding, but I want to say it was on Pinterest probably. I think I saw something, and that was probably like 2013. And I was like, oh, what is this? It looks kind of fun. And of course that was before I had a pass. So I went to Disneyland maybe once a year at that time. So I would just bound when I went. So it was just a couple of times before I got my pass. And at that time, a lot of people weren't doing it. It was a very small community. I think I joined the Disneybound Facebook group at that time, and it was maybe like 800 people, if even. So it was very small. And as you know, it's just gotten huge over the years. I think that group now has like 15,000 people or something crazy like that. So yeah, it's grown a lot. When did you first Disney bound?
Me, wow. So I learned about it actually from like a coworker of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So my job is just, it's pretty much, I'm a nurse practitioner, and we pretty much take care of babies and talk about Disney. That's the two things that we do at work.
Oh, that sounds
And
awesome.
it's an amazing environment for Disney lovers. And we would talk about our trips and our plans. And I was like the Uber planner, so I would like have my spreadsheets out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, well, there's this thing I was hearing about, and it's like all over Pinterest where you kind of dress up, but you don't dress up." And we started
Mm-hmm.
Googling it, and then the floodgates just opened, and so that might have been, mm, it was not that long ago, maybe 2016.
Okay. Isn't it
Purchase.
just so wonderful? It's funny how big it is. I mean, it's like worldwide now. And I actually do know Leslie, who started Disney Bound, and she's even said, like, she'd never in a million years thought it would be this. It was just something she wanted to do for herself, and somehow it grew because of her page that she started with it. And I'm just so glad, because it's really how I met most of my, I call them my Disney friends, because we all have our lives outside of Disneyland, and we can't really do it all the time. So I have my Disney friends, they're kind of like in this category, kind of keep them in. And I've met most of them through bounding, because I would go at first to the parks when I first got my pass with my children, because they each had a pass as well. And, they didn't really want a Disney bound per se. They were like preteens at the time. And so I would kind of do it by myself. And eventually they got to a point where they didn't want to go to Disneyland anymore. Teenagers are weird that way. So I actually got rid of both of their passes, because they just didn't want to go. And, what's the point of paying if they don't want to go? And before you knew it, I had people in the community reaching out to me. Hey, I'm doing this group bound with, I think the first one I did was like a Goofy movie. And I was like, sure, let's meet up. So I'd meet up with people for that. Then we did like a Muses from the Hercules movie. We did Muses bound, and some of the girls from that bound are actually like some of my closest Disney friends now. We've met up several times, we've bounded together several times, and that has, because of them, I've met other people, and it's wonderful. How you just get to know people through the community and become really good friends.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best parts of starting kind of the Disney bound, I don't know, movement,
Mm-hmm.
that you meet so many people, and then you have opportunities to connect with them because you have your common interest of the Disney bound
Right.
fashion, and you get together to discuss looks and different characters to do together.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it's so dope.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
amazing. And it's the other thing too about the community is that everyone is so nice, and you make these friends online too. Like you and I, for example, we haven't met in person, but we're friends. I consider us online friends, and there's so many people in the community that way that I've never met, but I feel like we've connected in a way. You start to message each other. Um, it's kind of interesting. It's like this whole family that you don't really know, but um, and then sometimes you do end up meeting, like whether it's on Dapper Day or at like a convention or something, and then it's like I've been seeing your face for the last 2 years or whatever, and now we're meeting in person. It's like we've known each other all this time. It's kind of neat. I've never been part of something like that ever in my life, and I think that's just kind of the nature of social media and fandoms and things that people get into.
Yes, it is true. And there is a difference. Like the Disney social media community, so far from my experience, has been very positive, very
Mm-hmm.
uplifting,
Absolutely.
very welcoming. My children are young. My daughter is going to be 7, like in a week.
Oh, that's a great age.
And my son is 3. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had joined like a mom support group.
Mm-hmm.
air quotes around support. And it was like, everyone talked about their pregnancies and things that they go through. And it was, for the most part, very helpful, pretty supportive,
Mm-hmm.
but the attacks, whoa. I was like,
Wow.
y'all got things that y'all need to work through.
That's
And
horrible.
yeah, but what came out of it was I have this core group of mom friends. All of our children are born within weeks of each other. We went through our pregnancies together, and now our kids are going to be 7, and we still talk.
That's
And we
amazing.
message each other, online, and we've never met. But
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you like so much about each one of them. I can tell you when this one moved, when this one lost a tooth, when how this one likes school. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just so great that in this age that you can make friends with people that are so far away from you
Right.
that you may have never met in your life
It's
except
crazy.
for
It's kind of weird that
this
that's
life.
how we do things now. It's kind of normal, when all these social media platforms first started. Facebook in particular, it's for me anyway. It was like reaching out to people you hadn't seen in 10 years or whatever. And now it's like about making friends with a stranger from across the world or whatever. And it's super interesting. And I think with the like you said with the Disney community, it's just so positive. It's a place where you're not going to be judged. You're not going to be teased or I never go and see people arguing about nonsense, whatever's going on in the world. But we all have this common interest that's Disney, and we can just connect in that way and be happy. Which is kind of the point. I think when I go to the Disney parks, it's my happy place, I call it. I go to kind of escape the real world, and you walk as soon as I walk in, it's just like yay, and you're smiling from ear to ear. And that's how it feels when I'm on the Disneybound Facebook group, or I'm on Instagram looking at other people's Disney bounds. And I think with my YouTube channel, I try to keep it very positive as well. I think maybe twice since I started my YouTube channel, I had a video that I started and it was kind of going like in a negative direction, and I couldn't finish it. It just didn't feel like me. And so I try to keep it positive on there and just have it for a place where people can go and be, there's lots of people who can't make it to the parks. And so they watch my vlogs at Disneyland as a way to have that experience, if you will, without actually having to or getting to go there. So I try to keep it very positive and happy, and try to show people, things that I'm seeing that maybe that they can't see. And it's a really fun outlet for me. I do post once a week, usually on Saturday or Sunday. It usually ends up being Sunday because I'm running late. But yeah, I love having that outlet, that creative outlet.
Yeah, it's fun to do, I'm sure, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just as fun to watch, you
Oh,
know.
thank you.
Because I live in New York, so I'm not near anything
Right.
very Disney besides, the Broadway shows, and that's what, 3 hours maybe at
3 hours.
most
Oh, for the show or from where you're
for the
at?
shows. For
Okay.
the shows,
Gotcha.
and how often are you gonna? Well, I don't know. Some people really love Broadway shows, but how often
Can you
can
see
you
one?
see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've seen it. And I mean, live theater is amazing because it does, it's never quite the same. But, how many times do you want to see one show? I get it. Yeah.
Right. We're going to talk about your vlogging a little bit more, but I'm
Okay.
going to backtrack a little bit and ask you a little bit more about your Disney background.
Hmm.
So, what would you say is your favorite Disney movie or show?
Movie or show? Okay, so my favorite Disney movie is Enchanted. And that is even like outside of Disney. It's just like one of my favorite movies. It's tied with Pride and Prejudice. So I would say those are equally my favorite movies of all time. Um, and if we're talking animated, strictly animated, I would say it's Tangled. It's got my favorite princess, it's got my favorite villain, it's got my favorite prince. So hands down, Tangled is my favorite animated Disney movie.
I really enjoy Tangled as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a divide. There's people that love it, and there's people that absolutely hate it.
Absolutely hate it. Really? Well, those
Yeah,
people are wrong.
but I enjoyed it. I enjoy watching it with my children. I
Yeah.
mean, we love doing Rapunzel. I did
Oh,
a whole week
absolutely.
dedicated to Rapunzel.
I remember one of your Rapunzel bounds, and it was like, I think that's right around when I first discovered your Instagram, was probably that one. And yeah, she's amazing to bound. I think I've done it, let's see, 3 or 4 times I've bounded as her. So much that I'm like, okay, I have to like do someone else because it's getting crazy. But she's just my favorite princess. And it's not just that. I think the movie, I've never heard anyone say they hate it, but I have heard people argue as far as which one is better out of Tangled and Frozen. And I won't go there, but it's definitely Tangled. um, there's something about it. It's, there's the adventure aspect. Obviously, she's a princess that isn't just being rescued, but she has this adventure that she shares in with the prince or with the guy. There's that romance aspect that's just, oh, I love it. The villain, I think, is very multidimensional, which is amazing and hilarious. I think she's funny, even though she's scary. There's just so many little things to it that I think people underestimate it. And every time I watch it, I realize it's just that much better than what I thought last time. So I don't know. I just love that movie so much. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. And I love purple. That's my color. So
Okay.
I'm always on with it. So would you say that Rapunzel is a character you identify most with, or is there someone else?
I wouldn't say I identify with her. I think a lot of the times, at least I've read and heard things said, like a lot of the times you pick out characters or you love characters that have traits that you want to emulate. So I wouldn't say that I'm most like her. I do relate to Tiana in some ways. She's my second favorite princess, and I think that because I want to be more like her. As far as how hard she works for her goals and like she never gives up, I want to be more like that. I would say that's not typically my MO. But I do relate to her in the fact that just like little things. I was born in New Orleans, and her mom's a seamstress. So we have that. And so I do relate to her, but also I do want to be like more like her. I'm trying to think what princess I most relate to. And I guess it would be, and I don't mean this in a good way, I think it's Ariel. Like I said, it's like the one that's your favorite is the one you want to be more like. I feel like Ariel's one of my least favorite, actually, and it's because she is kind of not hot-headed. What's the word I want? She's
Impulsive.
Yeah, she's impulsive. She is a little bit rebellious. She doesn't follow the rules. And those are things, in some ways they could be good, I guess. But in some ways, when I see those things in myself, it's like things I would want to change. And so I feel like I relate the most to her, especially as a teenager. Oh my goodness. When I was her age, we could have been the same person. I was boy crazy. I was, parents don't tell me what to do kind of thing. And I don't necessarily see those as good things, especially now that I'm a parent of a teenager.
Yeah.
Of a teenage girl. So yeah, I think I relate to her the most, probably.
Okay. Yeah, Ariel gets, I think a lot of people love her, but she gets a bad rap too.
Yeah. I mean, she's great. Like I know people who, that's their favorite princess, and I don't want to rag on her or anything. She's, in a lot of ways, I think she's great because that movie came out, I was 8 years old. I think it's 1989, right? So that would have been me 8 years old. And that was the first on-screen princess. Of course, they weren't like categorized as Disney princesses at that time yet. But for me, she's like my first princess, because I was like old enough to get it. And, I wasn't alive with the first batch of princesses. So she does hold a place in my heart in that aspect, that I'm watching her for the first time on the big screen, and it was like a huge deal. She was the first princess to have, I think what they call it is the want song. Part of your world was like this amazing epic thing that had never happened. And so it was a huge deal, especially for like a little girl. So she'll always definitely have a place in my heart of being special that way. So I do love her. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Just
I
not
mean,
as
she was
much.
necessary.
Yeah.
She was necessary because she saved pretty much the studio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she was the start of the Renaissance, which is another reason I think I'm Disney obsessed, is because I think, the perfect age going through the Disney Renaissance. I was from 8 years old to 18 years old. That's like the years where you're growing and you're becoming who you are. And that was Disney's, like, I think we're going through another one right now, but that was their comeback years. That was when, every movie was a hit. And I was growing up with that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was, I guess, 5 when Little Mermaid came out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that that movie was like it for me. It was more like I was Aladdin,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Lion King kind of kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I still give the Little Mermaid her props.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the movie holds up. I watched it maybe like a month ago and it was just as good. Obviously the animation has come so far, but just as far as storyline, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Are you ready for the live action version?
I haven't given that one so much thought. I guess I kind of stick to like maybe a year out. Like my brain won't let me like think that far ahead. So I'm thinking about Aladdin, I'm thinking about Lion King, and after that it's kind of like, oh, give me a year and I'll be thinking about Little Mermaid. So yeah, I think it'll be great. A lot of people kind of hate on the live actions, but I can't think of one that I hated. There's definitely ones that weren't amazing over the top, but I've definitely enjoyed all of them so far.
I'll say that I'm not excited for Aladdin,
Mm-hmm.
but I just saw one of the previews
Mm-hmm.
in the movie theater,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, okay, I might be able to get with this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be buying my tickets way in advance, but I will go to the theater right around opening time.
Yeah. I think I was kind of the same way. Like with the little teasers that we were getting, I was kind of neutral. I wasn't like, man, there was just so many negative things people were saying about it. And I was like, what? Why is everyone being so negative? Like, I mean, I get it. It's CGI is weird and it's not weird, it will be one day, but I was neutral on the topic until the real long trailer that just recently came out, and it made me excited. I thought it looked great. I think it's going to be good. I can't wait.
I think so. I think it's going to be enjoyable. I just know I'm going to have to squint whenever Will Smith is blue because it's making me itch. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, I can see. You kind of can see like maybe they'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see like where they kind of made the wig, like the little ponytail,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, is that a frown line or is that the line for the wig? I'm like, why am I even so focused on this? I should just enjoy the show. But
Hopefully, well, we've seen the scene where he's not blue, so hopefully it won't be that often. Maybe just in the Cave of Wonders, maybe just here and there, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm excited though. I think it's going to be good.
yeah, me too. I have a feeling that they're gonna do lots of times when he's not blue.
Yeah.
I'm here for that. Okay, so now we kind of went off on a little tangent, but that's okay. I'm just so happy that we are finally speaking. So
Yeah, me
we can
too.
talk about anything you want.
No, I love this because I could talk Disney all day, like all day.
Oh yeah, me too. So you are an OG Disneybounder. That's one way you show your fandom. And I bow down because
Oh my gosh.
you've probably done it all. And I will say that I have seen a picture of the Muse bound that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it.
It was amazing. Yeah, that was the first. Well, I guess the Goofy Bound was the first one, the Goofy movie bound, the first group bound I ever did. But the Muses one was the first one. I feel like that was like extremely detailed, and like we were all each a specific person, and like there was a lot of build up and preparation for it. And oh my gosh, that was the best. That was the day I met Erica and Tiffany, and they shout out to them, at the Yellow Brick Girl on Instagram and at Erica Enchanted. They, like I said, are now some of my closest Disney friends. And that bound was just, it was funny too, because the day before that, I got back from a trip to Honduras. So I was already kind of like, off when you're traveling, but also I had like a stomach bug from who knows what, when you travel. And so I felt awful that day. It was just like, oy. But when you're at Disneyland and you're with other people, you push through it. So It was a good day. It was a good day. And those pictures still, every time I look at them, I get so happy, and it's so nostalgic and wonderful that, friendships came out of that, and so much Disney bounding and group bounds came out of that. And it was a great day. It was a great day.
Yeah. It's funny. Erica and Tiffany get a shout out like almost every episode.
Do they really? Yeah.
I have to get them on.
Yeah.
And I will do that.
Absolutely. They're great.
Okay, back to Audrey.
Yes. Sorry, I keep going off on tangents.
No, this is so cool. I love it. You can tell that we've like spent a lot of time online with each other.
Right, exactly.
So you Disney bound and you vlog. Is there any other way that you like to express your fandom?
Not really. I'm trying to think. Just vlogging in itself, I guess there's a couple of different ways that I like to do YouTube. So my number one thing that I love, and that I found that my YouTube subscribers love, is meeting characters. That's like my absolute favorite. Sometimes I go to Disneyland. In fact, I went on Friday and I did nothing else. So because I go often enough, I feel like I'm not like missing out if I don't ride rides. I know a lot of people that go once or twice a year. It's like, you got to ride the rides. And I totally get that. But I'm there so often that I kind of like, oh yeah, Space Mountain will be here tomorrow, whatever. So for me, it's just interacting with my favorite characters. And that's like my number one thing that I do. Is my number one videos that I make. Friday, I met all the Marvel characters because a lot of them, I guess they were there like 2 summers ago. Some of them were there last summer. But with Endgame coming out, they brought a lot back that had been gone. So I just made a day of that. It was like, that was my only goal, was to meet as many of them as I could and interviewed them a little bit. So there's that aspect. And then every now and again, I'll do like a sit down video at my house where I'll either talk about a movie that's just come out, or I'll talk about like I'll do like a ranking video where I'll rank my top 5 favorite villains or my top 5 favorite Pixar movies, stuff like that. So yeah, there's a couple different ways I think I like to go with my vlogs. If there's anything special happening at Disneyland, like Food and Wine, which just ended recently, I'll go and do a vlog on that where I, taste the different foods and talk about that. Or if there's a new ride, I'll try to, hit that up and ride it a couple times and talk about that. So yeah, there's a lot of different avenues you can go. I've, like I said, though, I definitely found that people love character videos, and that's great because I love meeting them.
So you're a Disneyland person.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you been to any other parks?
I have been to your park, so Disney World, once. And I don't know if you have a Disney bucket list like a lot of us do. Do you have one of those?
Of
okay, great. I kind of have like a mental one. I haven't written anything down, but because up until a year ago, I hadn't been to any other parks. So Disney World was obviously on the list. It's the park everyone talks about being so much better than Disneyland, although that's debatable, I guess, with some people. So I think it was the end of May. Yeah, the very end of May, beginning of June. I was invited by Leslie, who is the founder of Disneybound, to go out to Disney World. It was like the 60th or 50th, I can't remember, anniversary for Peter Pan. And they were re-releasing it on DVD and everything. So Disney actually wanted a group of Disney bounders to do a mini Peter Pan parade. So they asked Leslie to, invite some bounders out. And I was so lucky and so blessed to be invited. That was like the most amazing thing I've ever done with Disney. I had to get myself out there, obviously, but they put us up in the hotels and they got us the day, the ticket to get into the park that day. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I was in a parade, which was so
Yes,
cool.
I remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is so dope. This is amazing that it's built to this level,
Mm-hmm.
Disney bounding the Disney fandom. And I thought it was also amazing how Disney got involved to celebrate this. Because if it wasn't for the fans, you wouldn't be celebrating the anniversary of Peter
Exactly.
Pan, or you wouldn't even have the need to re-release
Exactly.
it. So
Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
it's
I was like,
and I think it's overwhelming too that Disney, finally got to a point where they realized Disney bounding is so big that they had to make it a part of, they reached out to Leslie all the time to do this event or that event or talk about it. They, you can even tell at Disneyland now they're selling, or, the Disney parks, they're selling little pieces that you could tell are like geared toward Disney bounders where they weren't doing that before. There's the mini ears that are, Disney bound pieces. There's dresses that are Disney bound pieces. And they've really taken that and run with it because it's just grown to this crazy level that, they'd be crazy not to, bank in on that. I mean, it's Disney after all, right? So
exactly, it's a
they're going to
business.
get their money, right? So yeah, that trip to Florida was the only other Disney park I've been to. So they let us into Magic Kingdom that day. I think it was a Saturday. And then the day after, Sunday, one of the gals that we went with worked for Disney. So she got me into um, Animal Kingdom, and my brain's forgetting the names of the parks since I never go. Animal Kingdom and Epcot. So I got to see those two as well, and I didn't get into Hollywood Studios, so that's the only one I didn't go to last year. But it was just I really want to go back. Obviously, trying to do even 3 parks in 2 days is kind of hard. We were exhausted, obviously, by the end of Sunday, but it was just amazing. I could not believe how far apart each park was. Like that was crazy to me that like you had to go miles and miles to get from, one from Magic Kingdom to Animal Kingdom. I just couldn't believe it. But I rode Pandora. That was probably the highlight of the trip. I don't know if you've ridden that one. I'm assuming you have since that's your park, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
It
must.
it oh my
Every
gosh,
trip.
it changed the way I look. I think I teared up a little bit when I got off because it was just the most amazing ride I've ever been on in my life. And I think it really kind of shows you what the future is going to look like for theme parks. It was just, I'd never done anything like it. I'm thinking that we'll probably get something like it, or at least that level of epicness at when Star Wars Land opens. So we'll see. But not to totally go off topic. Yeah, that's the only other park I've been to.
So, since you've gotten a taste of Walt Disney World and your home is Disneyland, which park is your favorite of all the ones you've been to so far?
Um, hmm. I guess it's really hard to not pick a Disneyland park just because I know it in and out. But I gotta say, Animal Kingdom is a strong competitor, and probably because of Pandora. But honestly, if you took Pandora away, I don't know that I would pick Animal Kingdom. I don't think that Epcot got enough of my time for me to really judge it, but oh my gosh, the World Showcase was so cool. But I didn't even have enough time to go into each pavilion. So that just shows you like how much more there is to see for me before I could pick. But that's a strong contender as well. If I had to pick, like absolutely had to pick, I would say at this time California Adventure is my favorite. And it's hard to say that, but but I would have to pick California Adventure in Anaheim because that's where I spend most of my time right now.
So, I've been to Disney World. That's my home
Mm-hmm.
park. And California Adventure is the only other one I've been to so
So you didn't go
far.
into Disneyland? Okay.
No, I had 5 hours
Oh, okay.
um, in the Disneyland bubble. and I was doing some meetups.
Okay.
So California Adventure was where I was going, and I was like recovering from an epic
Mm,
cold. So but I ended up doing a lot in California Adventure, and I can see how it's, I mean, just, I don't know if this is true or it's just the vibe that I picked up. It was so chill
yeah,
there. And I was like, oh, I can see why people would just come here like all the
absolutely.
time. I mean, not to say that Walt Disney World isn't a place that you go all the time, but it looked like it was your local like park.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just going for a walk. We're gonna go for a walk in
Yeah,
Disneyland. So
absolutely. I think that it does have that vibe. I it is still growing, of all of at least the ones we've talked about, it's the newest. So it's definitely still growing. And there's a lot of, you could tell, a lot's gonna change. We're gonna get Marvel Land next year, which I am so here for that. Um so it's still got some growing to go, but it's a place where you can just go and sit and have a drink. And I think that's definitely one of the biggest vibes, because up until this year, Disneyland didn't serve alcohol anywhere. So you could only do that at California Adventure, which I don't drink, but I get the appeal of just sitting down and having a drink with your friends and hanging out, and a lot of people use it in that way. They go and they just sit at, the Lamplight Lounge for 2 hours and drink. um, so it's got that chill aspect. Definitely on any given day, it's less busy than Disneyland itself. So, if you're trying to beat the crowds, it's always a little bit less over there. You got Pixar Pier and now like Marvel Land coming. So they've got a section now that's kind of obviously already geared toward Marvel. And that's like my hangout spot right now. Yeah. So it's got like a good vibe to it. It's my hangout place. I'm really digging it right now.
yeah, and it's the only place to see the Marvel characters
Exactly.
right
Yeah.
now.
So there's no place at all in Florida to do that.
No, because there's a contract, and I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but there's some river,
Uh,
Mississippi River, I want to
oh.
say, that's like the dividing line between what Disney, where Disney can um, showcase their Marvel characters,
Oh.
and where Universal still has their contract still active.
Oh, I didn't
So
realize
Walt Disney
that
World,
Universal has some Marvel characters.
yeah. So
Oh.
Universal still has like
Okay.
Spider-Man, and I think they may have Captain America. I may be wrong, but they're still, they still have
Okay.
that those exclusive rights.
Interesting.
And so that's why Walt Disney World won't have many Marvel characters, I think, until, I can't tell you what
Yeah.
year. I'd have
That's
to
interesting.
look it
Yeah,
up,
that's one
but
I did
it's,
not know about. That might
yeah.
be an interesting YouTube video.
Yeah, so I think some of them are allowed, but not quite
Hmm.
yet. So we have Gardens of the Galaxy. We have a
Okay.
show for them. Well, we had one over last summer. They were able to perform, um, and I think that's pretty much all we've had from Marvel characters at Walt Disney World so far. I'm trying to think back. I think that's all I've seen. But we there will be a Marvel roller coaster, which is supposed to be like a very large indoor, I think the largest
Oh,
indoor roller
wow.
coaster that they're building. So it'll probably open up around the time where they're going to be able to have a lot more
Okay.
Marvel theming in the
Okay.
park.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd never heard that. I'm gonna have to research that and do like a YouTube video on it because that sounds so interesting. I also that brought up the fact that Disney World always has that room to grow, whereas Disneyland, it's like if we want something new, they got to take something away. Which a lot of people get upset about. Tower of Terror turned into Guardians of the Galaxy, and people were like losing their minds about that. I'm the type of person where for me change is good. Like I always welcome it. At least for theme parks, it's like, yeah, like give us something new. Like we've been riding the same ride for years. Um so yeah, we're gonna get our Marvel Land, but they had to tear out Bugs Land, which is not a big loss in my opinion. It-
Yeah, we have one ride, I think, dedicated to
Mhm.
it, and the wait is usually 5 to
Oh,
10 minutes.
wow. Yeah.
I did it once, and it was cool, but the best part about it was the exit. not to like bash it, but like the exit, you're right by the tree of life,
Oh,
and you get like a really great up close view.
cute. Okay.
So that's what I enjoyed most about it. And and people that have gone on it with their
Mhm.
children, have done the attraction with their children, have said that their kids are petrified because it's like a 4D kind of
Oh.
experience. So like you feel bugs
Okay. Yeah,
crawling on
we
you
had
and
that here
stuff.
for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm so happy that my children have not experienced that, because I know it would have been a real situation.
That's too funny. Yeah, ours we had that for a little bit too. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, it was like right when I got my pass. I think I saw it once, and then they took it away. So, but yeah, Bugs Land it was basically a little kiddie area. There was like 4 rides and a splash pad, and I get it. You know, if I had toddlers, I could see why it would be like kind of upsetting that it's leaving. But I'm sure they're going to put in at least one thing that that kids will love in Marvel Land. And I mean, it's superheroes. Kids love superheroes, so it'll be fine. It'll be great.
Right. And they just opened Jesse's
Mm-hmm.
Critter
Yeah, I
Carousel,
wrote.
right? That's kind of like for young
Yeah,
children. Is
absolutely.
what
It's just a carousel. So we had King Triton's carousel, and that just replaced it. So I wrote it a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's typical carousel. It's cute because it's Pixar themed, and I love Pixar so much. So I'll probably never ride it again, obviously, because it's a carousel and it's whatever. But yeah, there's definitely things for kids to do still that I don't think they're going to miss Bugs Land too much. But yeah, the Marvel presence is amazing. And hopefully, you guys like that contract ends or whatever, because that you guys need some Black Panther out there.
uh, let me tell you. Oh gosh, yeah, we're ready. We're ready for it. I'm gonna have to start the petition or the little love note to let them know what particular places would be
Yeah.
amazing. I think everyone has the same kind of place in
Uh-huh.
mind in Animal Kingdom.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm sure it's already building in the works. I know that at one of the shareholder meetings that Bob Iger did announce that they had plans for doing something Black Panther related in the
Okay.
parks, and it did get a lot of good
Okay.
reactions from the shareholders.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure the planning stages are already underway.
Yeah,
And
I was hoping that there's a Black Panther or Wakanda presence in Marvel Land, like a specific something. I don't know if it maybe not even a ride. A ride would be great, but something that is just specific to Wakanda, because I mean, I think people would definitely want that for sure. My guess is they're going to probably have a Spider-Man something because he's pretty popular there. Maybe a kiddie ride will be Spider-Man themed. We already have the Guardians, so it's like right there on the edge of what was Bugs Land. I'm hoping that they do like an Iron Man experience type thing, but for sure, something Black Panther. Fingers crossed. I actually had a conversation with T'Challa himself about this, and one of the Dora Milaje said to me, she said, what did she say? Are you funding it? And I was like, no. And she said, well, we'll leave the planning to Mr. Stark. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh man, they're my favorite meet and greet right now. Every time I go, I have to go see them. It's wonderful. Did you get a chance to see them while you were here?
so it was raining and they weren't
Oh no,
there,
that's so sad.
but that's just an excuse for me to come
Yeah, you got to
back.
come back.
So that's what it is.
And I do have
But
the
yeah,
inside
so
scoop.
disappointed.
I can't say how I know this, but they will be getting a new meet and greet area like next month. So,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool. I'm planning to come down for
Oh, okay.
D23. So I got to check everything off the list
Perfect.
around
We'll
that
have to
time.
go hang out together because I'm going to D23 on Friday and Saturday only this year, but we can pop in the park at some point and meet up. I'll introduce you to T'Challa.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Great.
I'm like so ready. I got to get all the outfits
Yeah.
together. I'm not ready for that, but Yeah, I'm ready. So let's talk a little more about your vlogging. When exactly did you start?
Okay, so I started YouTube in September of 2015. So about 3.5 years. Is that 3.5 years? A little over, yeah. And I don't, it's so funny. I'm very spontaneous and impulsive, as we said before. So I kind of didn't even think about it. I was like, I'm going to upload a YouTube video, like just totally randomly one day. And at the time, I wasn't thinking Disney, even though I'd had my pass for about 2 or 3 months at that point. I was in school still at the time, and I went to school for voice singing. And so I was like, I'm going to upload a singing video. And it's still on YouTube now. You can go watch it. It's me in my car. I was dressed as Tiana coming from a kid's birthday party. And I just sang. I was like parked or at a red light. I can't remember, but I sang. And it's maybe a 30-second, maybe 45-second video of me singing. And I thought, oh, this might be fun to just upload videos of my performances. So the first, I want to say 4 or 5 videos on my YouTube channel are me singing at school, because I was in a performance program and I had to sing every week or every other week. So I uploaded those, and then I realized suddenly I hated it. I hated it. I was like, having those videos out there for the world to see, and like, not having a do-over, and you become a perfectionist with like, oh, my voice didn't quite hit that note, or blah blah blah. I just hated that feeling of like, it's out there for the world to judge it forever. So I quickly switched gears, and I thought, okay, I go to Disneyland now, maybe I'll vlog. I'd never vlogged before, so I gave it a shot one day with like my iPhone 5, I think, at the time. I was like, oh, let me just record myself walking around Disneyland. And I loved it. I did it and I loved it. And it was great. My kids were actually still pass holders at the time, so they were like helping me record. And that was when I knew where my channel was going to go. So from that point on, I started doing Disney vlogs and Disney content pretty much every single week for the last 3.5 years. I might have missed maybe 3 weekends where it was either like I was out of town or I was sick or whatever. But it's been a great ride.
How do you come up with topics? I know you talked briefly that you see that people love your character meet and greets, but how do you come up with what you're going to talk about or film for that day?
I tend to do what's on trend, and it's really easy to do because Disney's always doing something new. It's like one thing after the other. So I tend to do what's popular right now. And like I said, I went Friday, and Marvel was, anyone was talking about. So I knew that would be a popular video, that people are searching for Marvel content right now. Like, like anywhere they can get it, they want more. So I just interviewed some of the heroes. I saw T'Challa, I saw Hawkeye for the first time. I'd never met him. I saw Captain Marvel, Captain America, I saw Black Widow. So I just interviewed them. And then another thing that I did, try to get 2 videos at once if I can. Another thing I did was I did something called the Disney Trivia Challenge. And this was the 3rd time I'd done it. The first time I did just general Disney knowledge. The second time I did Pixar edition, because that was right when Pixar Fest had started. And then this time I did Marvel edition. So I just picked 10 questions and I asked random people at Disneyland, which can be scary sometimes. But I asked random people at Disneyland if they wanted to play. And if you won, you got a prize. So that was a lot of fun. If there's food and wine, I'll do videos on that. If it's Halloween time at Disneyland, I'll do a few videos on that. Christmas time. Basically just whatever's going on at the parks. I try to keep my videos around that for, 2 or 3 weekends. And if there's really nothing special happening, I'll just, I like to do something called Ask the Princesses. So I'll pick a random question. Like, I think my last one was, what's your favorite food? So I went around and I asked all the princesses what their favorite food was. And that's, for some reason, those videos, just people love them. They want to see their favorite characters. So yeah, it's, I'm, like I said, I'm impulsive. So sometimes I'll just suddenly think of an idea and I'll go to Disneyland tomorrow and film that. So kind of just like whatever pops in my head, I guess.
And the characters that you meet, do you feel like there's a good variety or a good rotation?
I'm starting to notice with the princesses, it's kind of the same. There's a place called Royal Hall at Disneyland, and that's where you meet 3 princesses, like for sure. And it's always the same 3, which is like, okay. I mean, very rarely you'll see like someone else in there. But if I'm like, okay, I see those girls all the time, I'll try to wait and see. Like there'll be two princesses at the wishing well. Like it'll be Jasmine and Aurora, let's say. So I'll change it up and go meet them, or Tinkerbell, or Mary Poppins, and try to maybe not do the other three, but it just depends. People have their favorites. I have one subscriber in particular who is just obsessed with Cinderella. So if Cinderella's in every video, he's happy, So it's not a bad thing, I guess, if I see the same characters. For me, it can get a little monotonous, especially because Cinderella's always going to talk about Gus Gus, and and Snow White's always going to talk about gooseberry pie and red apples. So for me, it can be a little bit like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going, but people love it, so you give the people what they want.
Have you ever asked any of the characters a question that stumped them?
I feel like I have, but that's never my goal. I try not to, because I actually work as a character at a theme park, and I understand what that could feel like to be put on the spot that way. Improv, I mean, for me, I think you stick to what your character knows, so I understand why Snow White always talks about what she talks about. That's what she's asked to do. I understand that, but I never want to put someone on the spot so much that they falter, or that they can't come up with something. So if I have done it in the past, it's probably like, I definitely didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I'll say I've never stumped a character, but I've been stumped by a character.
Oh, no.
One time, I went to visit Tiana, and I had been bounding as Mater.
Okay.
And this is how I know my life is not meant for being a cast member whatsoever. I was trying to play the part, and she asked me where I was from, and I was like,
You were trying to stay in character.
Like, okay, this is done. We're over. Let's take a picture.
Oh no. Too funny. I have a whole video about that, actually, about like how to have the best character interactions. And I want to do more videos like that with tips and tricks, but I guess I just need people to submit questions or something, because I don't really know what people want, tips on. But I have a whole video on, make sure you have your autograph book ready. Make sure you have your camera ready. Try to ask them a question that, that might be fun. Try to do, different poses. If you're with Elsa, do the Elsa pose, that kind of thing. And one thing I do say in there is just go with the magic. If Elsa talks about, or if Elsa asks you if the ice crystals in your hair are, if you made them yourself last night, go with the magic. Don't like say, oh no, I bought them from Walmart. It sounds like that's what happened to you.
Yeah, I was like, I completely blanked.
That's so
and
funny.
I was like, okay.
Wait, so did you want to say Radiator Springs, or did you want to say New York? You don't know.
I think I was just trying to get the accent down.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Wow. Well, Mater's a tough one, so.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you got me, Tiana.
She was probably like, what is wrong with her?
I know. I mean, I'm still thinking about it to this day, and that was probably like over a year ago. So there you go.
I've had interactions like that too, where I'm fumbling with my camera, and like you could see the look on their faces where they're like, this girl, like she needs to get it together. I feel like I'm more comfortable in my, in my skin now, where I recognize my face, I think. So they know that I'm going to ask them a question. They know that I'm going to be putting a camera in their face. And so they kind of like prepare themselves, I guess. And I don't know, there's a small part of me that feels a little bit weird still. Like it's fine. And I think that, everyone has a camera on them these days. So I feel like it's becoming more popular. But there's this small part, a little bad, like, oh, I'm shoving a camera in your face and putting you on the spot. I'm sorry. But I don't know. It's part of the gig, and I'm sure they're getting used to it now.
Yeah, I could only imagine how it's evolved over the
absolutely.
years.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you have like your own experiences, but I guess you may have to practice a little bit more to kind of be on, maybe, or I don't know if it's always been that way, because even if there's no camera there, you still want to give a good experience to the guests. But I don't think I'm good at improv. So shout out to you, and shout out to all the cast members that can do it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you can absolutely practice and get better at. But it's also like any other kind of performing thing where, sometimes it just comes naturally to some people. And I'm sure everyone has their good days and bad days where they might slip up and say something, or they're just like spot on, like, man, I was the perfect, Cinderella today or whatever. But I hope that, they enjoy it at least, because I as a performer at a theme park, I feel like I enjoy the people who want to spend a little bit more time, asking questions, or the little kids that want to talk to you a little more, just depending, I guess, on the time of day. But but I think that's fun. So I hope that there's some part of them that enjoys, not just taking pictures, but talking and interacting with guests. So
yeah, because that helps create the magic.
Exactly. If you're just taking pictures all day, I mean, I guess it's easy, but it can't be that fun.
Right. So what are some things that you love about vlogging and some things that you don't like so much?
I guess for me, I picked, because I picked something that I'm passionate about, Disney. It's never a chore. Well, I shouldn't say it's never a chore. That's not true. It can be difficult sometimes, but in general, I'm doing something I love. So it's not that much of a chore. I'm going to a theme park. I'm talking to people who are in these movies that, are everything to me. So that aspect, I would say, is the best part. I get to have fun doing this, and it's a creative outlet. There's not, like, unless you're a YouTuber with hundreds of thousands up towards to millions of subscribers, you're not making a ton of money. So, it's not like I'm doing this and really profiting from it, but I'm doing this and getting this creative outlet in this area that I love. So I feel like it's a reward within itself. I have a lot of fun doing it. So that's wonderful. Even honestly, the editing can be fun sometimes. I enjoy doing that. I would say the worst part of vlogging, sometimes I feel like, and it's not too often, but sometimes I feel like I have to do it now. You know what I mean? I've made a commitment to my subscribers that I'm uploading a weekly. I've said that. It's right there on my YouTube channel, videos every week. And sometimes I just don't have a video. Or sometimes I just don't feel like editing that day. And so that, I guess, would be the worst part, is when I want to just sit and not edit. I want to, sometimes it's like, oh, I feel guilty because it's not a vlog. It's just me at home, like talking to the camera. So I guess that would be the worst part. But even that, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just sometimes can be daunting. But I get over it and I move on. I edit the video, or I come up with something, to make a video. And, sometimes it feels like, oh, this isn't as good as last week's, no one's going to like it, or that kind of thing. But it is what it is. It's part of the gig.
Yeah, I feel you. Like, I'm fairly new at this podcasting, and I do a lot. I work in the daytime, I work at nighttime. My children are young still, do a little bit too much probably.
Right.
And there's some days where it's just like, everything is going to get a no from me. But you have deadlines. And everyone needs deadlines.
Right. No, it's true.
And I always try to tell myself, the beauty's in the process. The beauty's in the work. You have the same amount of hours in the day as Beyonce, or, anything that you can do to kind of get yourself to get it done. And then there's one individual that I've started following. His name is John Henry. Okay. And he's like a content creator, and he does other things. And he's like, if it's 80%, it's okay.
Absolutely.
Like, do what you got to do to get it out there, to get yourself to the next goal, the next level that you have to do. And so I try to say that to myself every now and then, if there's a project that I want to work on and everything is just saying, go lay down. So I totally feel you and get you with what you're saying about, just creating. It's beautiful, but it also it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's not like this big huge reward from it. At 5,000 subscribers, and I'm not quite there yet. It's like 45, little over 4,500. But that sounds amazing, and it is. Sometimes on YouTube, it's so hard to not look at the person with 100,000 and be like, why aren't I there yet? I was doing the same thing, like I said, before I had 100. I was like, I just want 100. So it's hard not to compare yourself to bigger YouTubers. but I have to remind myself 5,000 is a lot. Like there's 5,000 people who signed up and said, I want to watch more of you. And that's amazing. But at the end of the day, it's not bringing home the bacon. It's like, it's not like I'm, paying the bills with this, but I still find joy in it. And I still get that outlet. And when I put a video up and somebody makes a nice comment on it, that brings me joy, and it makes me want to keep going and want to, even though I feel like the content might not be great this week, it makes me want to just, put it out there, because you never know, somebody might really enjoy this. Yeah, it's fun. I do enjoy it still.
Has your vlogging impacted your life in any way? And has it changed the way you do things or see things?
I would say no. I don't feel like it's changed me necessarily. I mean, it's a couple of little things. It's brought me definitely some opportunities. I sometimes get recognized at Disneyland, which I think is hilarious because, like I said, 5,000 isn't crazy, but people obviously, if they are Disney fans, then they're watching Disney content. So every now and again, I'll get recognized and people ask for a picture or whatever, or just say hi. And I think that's pretty cool. But generally speaking, I think I'm pretty much the same as I was before I started. A big part of my life is church. My husband is an elder at our church. And so I try to keep a perspective of, at the end of the day, this doesn't matter. And I hate to say that for people who, I don't want them to think that I don't care about my Disney Channel, because I do. But at the end of the day, it's not what matters. My family is important. Church is important. God is important. And sometimes I do, like anyone else, I struggle keeping perspective. Sometimes I do get wrapped up in the Disney bubble. Every day I have to make an effort to not make that be my top priority. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is not what is important, So yeah, I think if that makes any sense to your question, I think thinking of it that way, I haven't really changed too much as a person. I hope that it has helped me just grow as far as creativity. And, I've learned how to edit better, and I've learned how to video record things in a way I'd never had before. And I've learned a little bit about cameras and things like that. But as far as who I am, I think and I hope that I'm the same as I was before I started this venture. So
yeah, YouTube kind of scares me. I don't like talking to a camera. Like just starting this podcast was a big step forward for me to kind of come out of my shell. So kudos to you for sticking with it and being consistent and being yourself and staying yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tricky when especially you're walking around Disneyland talking to your phone. Holding your phone up in the air and talking to it. It's funny, but honestly, I've seen enough other people do it now that it's such a thing. Vlogging has become part of our world, and so I think even from 3 years ago till now, people are more used to it. So it's not as bad as it was, but I definitely felt funny about it too 3 years ago.
Yeah, I did maybe one trip where I did stories every day. And I mean, as I did it more and more, it got a lot easier.
Exactly.
But I don't know if I'm doing this on my next trip. I think I went, and when I went on the trip, everyone was like, why didn't you put anything up in your stories? I was like, oh, sorry. But...
yeah, it's like you gave us a little taste. Now we want to see more.
Yeah. So I mean, it's fun, but you definitely, you gotta have the grit for it, for sure. So do you have any advice for people that are interested in vlogging?
Yeah, I'll say what I've heard other people say when I'm looking for YouTube advice or how to grow my YouTube. It's like, just start. If you really want to do it, everyone's got a camera in their pocket and they're pretty nice now. So just try it. And even if it's uncomfortable the first time, but you really want to go down this road, I would say give it a couple of tries. You'll find that you'll get more comfortable. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be Disney, but maybe find what you love, find your niche and do that. Even if let's just narrow it down to Disney. Some people I know a wonderful YouTube channel that it's all about Disney food. So they're like Disney foodies and that's what their niche is. I know other people who do characters like I do. There's some people that do updates on what's happening at the park and like the construction and all that kind of stuff. So find your niche, find what you actually are passionate about and vlog about that. and it'll be less work for you because you're passionate about it. I think if you're really trying to go hard at YouTube, you got to be consistent. Like, for sure. You can't upload today and tomorrow and then not again for 2 months. Like, consistency is key on YouTube. Even YouTube itself like will promote your videos more often if you're consistent. So yeah, just get started and be consistent.
Well, I'm want to try to get this podcast up on YouTube, mainly for people that don't really use podcasting apps, and also so I can put like subtitles.
Oh yeah.
And so people can actually read them. So that's probably going to be the extent for the most part of my YouTube ventures. I don't know, but
it's fun. Like I said, it's like just this creative outlet and I like to think of it too as like, these are memories I'm making. You know, I'll go back and watch a video from 2 years ago and it's like, oh, that was so much fun, you know? So, you know, I have maybe 5 or 6 videos on my channel that are set to private that are Christmas morning videos or us going to the beach or something. And it's a great place to put like family videos, and, you know, you can keep them private and have those memories there for you forever. So it's a pretty cool tool.
Oh, it's a great idea. I think I have a couple. Actually, now I come to think of it, probably a few years ago. Yeah, so that's actually a great tip and a great thing to remember.
Yeah, even if it's a Disney vlog, but you want it just for yourself, you know, think of it that way. It might be less pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Especially hearing parents of older children and how like the Disney love kind of, you know, starts to dissipate a little bit as they get older.
Yep, exactly. I wish I had, I mean, you know, hindsight's 2020, but we've lived here for so long and it's like, man, I wish I'd gotten annual passes when they were little, you know, but it just wasn't like something we could afford at the time. So we just never thought of it. But now that I have one, I'm like, I can never get rid of it. I've been sucked into the Disney trap.
Can imagine, like, if I lived closer, I would probably be there.
Yeah, it gets you once you start going. I tell you, even I'm an hour away, and if I lived closer, even like another half an hour north, I'd probably go at least once a week. And if I lived in Anaheim, I'd probably go every night. Like, I'm gonna go to Disneyland for dinner.
Exactly. It's grab a churro.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on one ride.
Exactly. And I would totally
have
do
a
that.
great afternoon. Amazing. So what would you say is a favorite Disney moment or memory that you have?
I loved that day I walked into Magic Kingdom. That was overwhelming. The castle. I'm sure you talked about the castle or heard about the castle, how the difference in sizes. So we have Sleeping Beauty's castle, and it's beautiful. It's the original. It's great. But Cinderella's castle in Florida, like, blew my mind. It was just, I'll never forget that moment, just walking in and the sheer size of Magic Kingdom. So that's one. Obviously, later that day, walking in the parade was probably the highlight of that trip. You know, because we were Disneybounding, but also they had Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, the pirates were in the parade with us. So that was so amazing. I'll probably never do anything that epic again. And then there's always the little moments that you don't expect. Like, I went to Mickey's Halloween party last year. That was my first one. And I was cosplaying because they do allow you to wear costumes to the party. I was dressed as Tiana in her waitress dress. And I got to meet Tiana and sing for her, which is another like couple of videos on my channel. I sing for the princesses while I'm Disney bounding as them. But doing it for Tiana was like, it was amazing because it was one that I had been wanting to do forever because I'd never done her, and I was just waiting for the perfect, you know, Disney bound and the perfect timing, and it ended up being a cosplay, but it was still just so amazing. That Tiana that day was so gracious, and she danced with me, and it was just a really great moment. I'll never forget that, and I'm glad I have it on video. And then that same night I met Dr. Facilier while I was dressed as Tiana, and that was an amazing encounter. So it's little things like that you're not planning, but it happens and you never forget it. So gosh, there's so many more I just, couldn't even think of, but it's just, it never gets old going up there and having those encounters, and the magic really is like, it's there. a lot of people don't get like, why do you go to Disneyland twice a month? But for me, it's magic from the time I step foot in there to the time I leave. So
it's like a whole different set of oxygen.
It probably is.
Crazy.
They're pumping something in the air for us to come back.
I'm with it. It's good. So keep it coming. So before I let you go, what is one thing about yourself that you would like for everyone to know?
I think it kind of comes straight through. If you don't follow me, you would know this, but it comes straight through on my YouTube and my Instagram. I'm just a happy person. I love living life. It takes a lot to get me down or depressed. And I hope that I bring joy to other people through my videos and through my Instagram pictures. So if you don't follow me, I hope that if you like just having a little bit of joy in your life, I hope that my videos brings that to people.
It does show through your content.
Good.
You are always you always have a bright aura about you. You're always smiling and positive, and you look like you're 22. Let me just say that. And I'm like, wait, how she got teenagers?
Oh, that's
kind of sorcery?
I guess that's something else I want people to know about me. I'm a vampire. No, I'm kidding. Because people always say, like,
I think it's the positivity. I think that because you stay positive and you have that good energy, that it shows it radiates through you.
Wonderful.
So I definitely see it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just a part of who I am. I'm just a positive person. I like to look on the bright side of things and see the good in everyone and everything, and even the Aladdin trailer. I like to see the good. But yeah, so I love that, and I hope that shows.
So where can people find you?
So my YouTube channel and my Instagram are just my full name. It's Audrey Lee Young, and Lee is spelled Lee. And yeah, you'll find me on both of those places. Lots of Disney content.
And I'll link both of those sites in the show notes.
Wonderful.
So everyone can find you. So Audrey, this has been so much fun.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
We definitely have to chat again, and I can't wait for us to finally meet. Hopefully this summer.
Hopefully in June or is it July?
And you can show me around. Show me how to actually get a good interaction with the characters.
I'm an expert. I can help you.
Awesome. I won't sing, but I'll listen to you sing. You don't want to hear me sing. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking this time out to talk to me.
You're very welcome.
And I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And until next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've just heard my conversation with Audrey. Make sure you go check out her vlog for character interaction inspiration. I've linked her Instagram and YouTube channel in the show notes. And if you're anything like me, take the time to practice beforehand so you don't freeze worse than T'Challa. I also linked an article that explains the War of the Roses between Walt Disney World and Universal Studios over Marvel characters in the parks. It does a much better job of explaining the whole situation than I did in this episode. The POC-owned small business for this episode is Save Soul Clothing. It is a handmade clothing line owned by Clarissa Gibson. She also sells vintage pieces over at her other shop, Save Soul Vintage. You can check out her stuff at www.savesoulclothing.com. A link to her Instagram page and website is in the show notes. And as always, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, please be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast with all of your friends. And also be sure to join the Afros and Pixie Dust Facebook group so we can share our favorite character interactions and brainstorm D23 plans together. So until next time, never stop deep conditioning or pursuing your happiness.